going through illness, especially cancer, which is a terminal disease. We all have. It's so incredible that we all have some relatives that, or we know somebody very close that have had some of that, and we actually had some family members, friends that passed with that, and most of the times we have a we have like the mourning, right? We have the separation of people who we leave, and we have to deal with that, with those sentiments, and that impact us a lot. So a little bit what we're going to talk about tonight, it's in the gospel according to Spiritism, about patience and resignation, because not only for us, but sometimes we don't even know how to help anybody who are in that, going through the desperate situation. It's not necessarily just cancer. We're talking about any type of illness or any type of situation in which we are in a position to help that person to diminish the pain a little bit. You know, the suffering, it's pain is there. We have to know how to manage that, like pain management, heard that. But suffering is something that goes a little beyond the bodily functioning and the pain that that is occurring, and I think we need to reflect upon this, and this is going to be the theme of our meditation. It's going to be more like a spiritual meditation. We invite you guys to be very open. We have this passage here that when he talks about patience and resignation, says that pain is a blessing sent by God to all his elected. So you, when you suffer, do not allow yourself to become afflicted. Rather bless the omnipotent, who, through the pain of this world, has chosen you to receive glory in heaven. Let's take a little break here. So the enlightened spirits here are bringing us this message. The pain, it's not necessarily something bad. It is something that we have to deal with. So it's our perspective and how we face it. And it's a blessing, and it's like kind of a contrary, right? If you're very Freud sympathetic with his theory, Freud was very straight through that. There are some feelings and some emotions that are, it's due to our nature, and then he goes on in explaining all of this. It's a reflection of this and that, but he never gets. He was Freud was extreme. His contribution to psychiatry, it's like unbelievable, because he's a reference point, right? But it was still primitive. You need to have others that came after him to complement that work, because he never touched in the spirituality, because that's the point, that you have like a positive psychology by Jung and so many others that came and complement their work. And once we see with our eyes or insights in the spiritual side of ourselves, and that's when, if you are just living in the matter, if we're just living the here and the now, and it's just this body, this existence, and my situation, my circumstances happening now, and I have no, like Peter opening here, if I'm not storing my treasures in heaven, if I'm not looking to what is the better life that expects us, if we're doing well here, that's great, that's unbelievable. If you're managing to be very happy and everything works out, but you'll be an exception, because we are here to go through a lot of learning, and learning without us moving ahead. Like I heard one of your talks, like, you mentioned, like, you with the pain, help us move ahead, move forward. And here we're seeing that is actually a blessing. And not to be in the sense of, like, suffering is the suffering that makes us grow, evolve. It is not the suffering. It's our lessons from the suffering, from the experience that we're living, how we make sense of that, how we make changes, how we adapt to those changes, and that is unbelievable. And then comes the part of patience, right? Because we're talking about patience and resignation. Be patient, because this is also a charity. Everyone should practice the law of charity as taught by Christ, who is God's envoy. Charity given to the poor in the form of alms is the easiest of all, just giving material things, right? However, there is another kind of charity which is more laborious and so consequently offers higher merit. That is to forgive all of those placed in your pathway by God to act as instruments for your suffering and to test your patience. Now we have another very important keyword here. Hey, so we now we have here charity. How can we make sense of charity in the midst of suffering and pain? Charity, in the sense of us finding the positive when everything is negative. The charity of forgiving ourselves. We're talking about charity and forgiveness are working together here. How can we go about wanting to and needing to forgive others if we're not forgiving ourselves and we're not freeing ourselves? Once we are more free from whatever it's tormenting ourselves, from so many traumas, so many situations we have, and so many people that we feel that we don't need to forgive this person or that person because it caused me so much pain. So it's like you cannot free yourself from that. So you like anchored down with that feeling, and that hurt, right? You feel hurting. It's because we have unresolved issues, and that is lack of charity. Very basic. Christ taught us to love abundantly, to forgive unconditionally, and that seems to be the biggest challenge that we live in this world. We just don't need to just look the picture we are living right now in this beautiful planet that we call home, all of the mess that we have. And in the very heart of everything is charity and forgiveness. Charity of tolerating, respecting, understanding, forgiving. If we had these basic foundations of what love is, because love, it's not just a beautiful romantic love that you love your mom, you love your family, you love your brothers. Love is working hard in mending situations, because it doesn't matter if you're related by blood or without any relationship or keenness of anyone in the other side of the world. We are all in this together. What's happening in the Middle East, what's happening in Russia, Ukraine, and Africa, and in all of our in Haiti, and you name it. If we make a list, there is wars of every size or some kind of a conflict, and it's all fueled by hate, intolerance, and lack of charity. So we have our own work to do. But if we start working on that, little drops will fill a bucket. If we all start working on our own little planet, this little universe that it's ourselves, this beautiful self that we're given, and there is a part of us that's hurting. Is it because we are in fact I'm going through this terminal disease. What do you expect from me? I have to hurt. I have to suffer. I have to be in pain. It doesn't necessarily need to be that way. If we change the value of this suffering, we're giving everything is so negative. You don't need to make a situation that's already bad worse. So, like, how do you make a lemonade out of the lemon, right? You squeeze the lemon. You add a little bit of sugar, not too much if you have a case of high sugar, right? In my case, I avoid sugar. Put the lemon in the water, it's great. It will quench your thirst and it will move forward. Is it hard to have charity and forgiveness at the same time? What do you think? Is it, Natasha? What is the hardest part of the forgiveness?
Forgive yourself.
There you go. Why is that, Natasha? Why you work in that field?
You want to know for me or?
No, what in general? Why is so hard? What is the biggest obstacle for us to forgive ourselves and also to forgive others? Marcia, wanna? Pride. Thank you. Thank you. That is exactly what I was looking for. And in the center of all this hate and this imbalance that we're living in this world, it doesn't matter. It's happening so far. Oh, it's let them kill themselves. Whatever. It's their problem, not my problem. It is a problem. It is a problem. We should be affected by it and react by it. Who remembers that we're talking about the gospel, right? Blessed are the peacemakers. We are called. It's not when Jesus is saying blessed are the peacemakers, he's not saying it is nice to be a peacemaker, because if you are nice to everybody and you're making you're doing something good or you help, he's not just telling us, he is commanding us. He says, if you want to inherit a better world, if you want to enter in the kingdom of my Father, the place that's already there for you, but it's not going to be given to you just like that. There is effort. You need to go through it, and we have to be party to there is suffering. Help me be someone who helps that suffering to be less. And at one point, if everybody starts copying my actions, my charity, everybody gives their contribution, we will move forward and we will do better and we will finish this phase, this chapter, because how long we've been regenerating, right? It's up to us as a humanity. We've been regenerating for a long time. It's not just like in this century or in the past century. We've been regenerating, but we came to a point that it's like we're in the very top of problem makers, then troubleshooters, peacemakers. We are, so it's time for it's in your face, it's there. How many kids need to die in the school for you guys to do something about it? How many people need to suffer because of this and that? And it's not political, it's just like the facts are there. And a lot of people will say, no, but it's not because of that. Okay, maybe 100 people, 1,000 people. And then it becomes like, we become insensitive to what's going on. We should not take a political side here and there, but we should take a spiritual side. That's the commandment from Christ. It's like, be charitable, have charity, have forgiveness in the sense that you apply forgiveness to everything. You don't agree with this one or that one, but forgive in the sense of clean out all of the smoke, all of the cloud that there is. Just see the person for who she or he is, and let's look at everyone's quality instead of being demonizing everybody's imperfection, because we're not perfect. I got a little excited. Just a little. Come down a little. So Thanks for your help. So just this other slide here, because we need to do a lot of meditation tonight. I have a very close friend of mine. You guys know Alberto, right? That's come here. He's like, he lost his brother this week. And he was like in the same campaign that I am with my own family. I have a lot of siblings, and it's like, high cholesterol. You have like a history of having strokes in your family or cardio issues. It's education. If you're prompt to something, you have to do something about it, because guess what? Time will pass and it will happen. So that was the second. He lost his first brother with a stroke, that he actually was paralyzed for a long time, and he ended up passing a few years later. And most recently, he had his older brother had passed of a heart attack that was like one time sent to the hospital, and he didn't make it. And we talk about us having, like in my case, I have excess of iron in my blood. That's called hemochromatosis. So I have to take blood out. It is a hereditary situation. So in my family, we have high triglycerides, we have high cholesterol, we have diabetics in the family. Also, we have the data. It's there. We have the information. I have like my mom's side of the family. We inherit the bad DNA. My
Mom.
yeah, and
Talking about Freud.
yeah, talk about Freud, right? So once I went in 1994, I had like a biopsy of my liver that I discovered that I had a hereditary issue. And the doctor says, you have now to tell all your siblings to, it's probably your mom and your dad together, or just your mom or just your dad, but definitely you have this, and it's going to follow you for the rest of your life. So we have to be careful. And I started this campaign for so many years ago, and then one says, "Oh, my ferritin is like 700." Dude, 700 is crazy high. The other one is like 1,000. You have to keep it at, tops 200. That's do your blood exam every 6 months. Go see your cardiologist. But they don't do it. They once in a while they go and they do like just the basic stuff. And there was the same thing with my friend. He was like always trying to. He takes care of himself, and he's always concerned. But then eventually we have this, and we shouldn't be pointing fingers. It's nobody's fault. But we have information, and we have to educate ourselves, because stuff will happen in our lives. And then later on, you're gonna have this remorse. Why didn't I do different? Well, we had the opportunity. We do it again. Let's do it again. Let's do better this time. So when we talk about obedience and resignation, again, Jesus, right? It's always Jesus, because Jesus is like a philosopher, a doctor, the highest spiritual spirit that ever stepped on earth. And there is so much knowledge that comes just from the example that he lived. His doctrine constantly teaches obedience and resignation, two virtues which are companions of mildness and activity. Okay, we're going to talk about the activity. Although man wrongly confuses them with denial of sentiment and free will. Obedience is the consent of reason. Resignation is the consent of the heart. Both are active forces, since they carry the burden which has fallen upon them due to the foolish revolt. That part of the foolish revolt is like living in the, what do you call the mouse race, the mice race? Like we're like hamster, like we're like, oh, wake up. There you go. We wake up every day, living life mechanically. So that's
not how you're supposed to do it.
yeah. Well,
I'm lost now.
don't take it by me, but that's called the foolish revolt. that's the wording that they call it. So we have heart and we have reason. When we say heart, we're not saying this heart that's pulsing 100,000 times a day, bringing oxygen to all your organs. We're talking about this part of us who is the storage of character, of spirit, of our living as above the material. Heart, it's where we store love, where we receive. So we're talking about all of this dependency and this exchange of energy we have with above, with all of the beautiful things that they are there, that spiritual that belong, that the spiritual beings that we don't see, but they are among us and we are related to them and each other. In fact, we're not even here to be too concerned about the spiritual beings and the angels and everything. That is great, and we have, that's why we have some intimate time to talk to God. God doesn't require us to be like 24/7. Oh, I have to talk to God about this and this. God wants us to talk to each other. We need to be his representative. His when he says, you were made my image. You were like, it's there, right? We are his image, but his image not for us just to see who God is what God is for us, how we work that love energy, and how we share, how we give. It's always given. It's always given that we receive. The coward cannot be resigned any more than the prideful and selfish can be obedient. That's what we're talking about, the pride, right? That's what stops us from the obedience here. We will see the connection. If you have resignation and obedience is you have a situation. We have the information. Even if you're not educated, if you don't have a very good spiritual upbringing, it is here. When we talk about the heart, the laws of God, it's imprinted on us already. It's there. Nobody is illiterate about God's law because it's in us. That's the heart. That's who we are. And free will, we have it. But do we use it as we need to? Jesus was the very incarnation of these virtues, which were despised by material antiquity. He came to earth at a time when the Roman society was perishing in the failings of corruption. He came so that even in the bosom of depressed humanity, the triumph of sacrifice and the renouncement of sensuality would shine forth. The word sensuality is there because it was something that the Roman Empire was very big at. They were like partiers. They were like, everything was about power and suppression. And Jesus was resigned and obedient. He was one of the most obedient of the law, right? He knew the difference, and he shows the difference. You give to Caesar what's Caesar's, but you give to God what's God's. So there is the path, and that is the example we have. Those are the two slides I selected for us to reflect upon how to be patient and how to have resignation, and how each one of us here, again, we're in Pink October, we have many friends, family members that have gone to the spiritual world. Every time we have that separation, it leaves like a hole inside of us, right? And they will come to us to get some kind of consolation, some kind of togetherness. We are part to healing. That's the most important healing, just the solidarity that we give to each other in moments like this. One time, Natasha, Chris, myself, and our friends were in the COVID. When we were having the COVID, we had we were having lives, right? We had a live, and we invited this lady named Alcione from Brazil. She was in our live, and we had questions for her. She wrote a book about the women in the gospel, and that was the subject we were talking about, the women in the gospel. And I felt like very connected to her, and I didn't know, but I asked her the question about being a mother. And you were talking about women in the gospel. One a scene that was always coming to me is like when Mary was Jesus has just passed in the cross, and they were bringing his body down, and some I don't remember the artist, but it's called La Pietà. There's this sculpture. There was actually a sculpture of the mom, she holding the dead body of Jesus, and some other ladies together, and that sculpture depicts such a suffering, like it was visceral, that you feel the pain of what's going on. And then I had to ask her the question, and what do you think about that scene, that what happened there? She told me, and it was our instinct that I asked that question. She says, it's funny how you asked me that question, because I lost my son, and it was the hardest thing for me to deal with. And I found peace in my heart by going over that situation, what Mary had to go through, and referring to a lot of praying. But when when I was in mourning, I was like the shock of everything. I had a good friend that just came over. I was suffering, and she didn't say a word. She was just there. There was nothing to be said. There was nothing to be said. She was just there. She sat next to me for hours. She hugged me. We cried together. But we didn't talk about why I was suffering, when I was going to stop suffering. She was just there. We go hours without speaking a word. And for me, that was a great picture that I engraved in my head about resignation. And you know what? It is hard, but like Chico also said, this suffering shall also pass. And that's important. So and I took that to heart. Like, sometimes I'm always looking for the right word to say. Like right now, I'm always looking for the right word to say about what we prepared here. And since we're bringing this Spiritism and meditation as also we included mental health, we are also always addressing the mental health aspect of how we need to be balanced, how we need to deal with situations that are very hard, very tragic, and it gives us, it unbalances so much. And we need to get out of that cycle of suffering and pain, and we have to give more meaning to that, and we have to give ourselves the time we need to mourn, but we also have to give ourselves some time. Okay, I will move on eventually, follow my heart, but take ourselves out of that the feeling and of the victim. Why this happened to me? It's not like asking the whys. It's really the question we should be asking: how I move forward. Okay, because once we are more framed into the moving forward, gradually that's going to be, all the negativity that attaches to it's going to be left behind, and you'll just keep the good stuff with you. So as we move forward here with our next block, now we're going to start our actual meditation. I just want you guys to, and myself too, what the proposal is for us to do three things. We're going to work in the patience that we need with ourselves. We need to work in that forgiveness, because I'm fine. I don't have nothing to forgive. I'm good. I'm clear. I'm just out there forgiving everybody. It's not true. I love to hear that, but I'm not in the mental health business. But common sense says, and the knowledge that we have acquired from the Spiritist doctrine, we are very, very complex. We had so many other existences, so many other experiences. We had contact with so many people that we were very close with. And at one point, they hurt us. Another point, they hurt us very bad again. And then was our time, revenge, and we hurt them. It wasn't good enough. We came back again. We are connected, and we keep coming back together again because we need to repair that. At one point, there is just love and appreciation. When we get to that point, we have forgiven ourselves, and we're able to free ourselves from that huge, we call the Carioca calls the big potato bag that we carry in our back, the big piano that we're carrying, or the anchor that's anchoring us down. So let's work on increase the patience, expand the patience to the limit. I'll be patient with myself. I'm going to forgive myself. I don't see anything wrong right now, but I'm going to forgive myself from the past 3 lifetimes that I was here, because those were very impactful. Not 10, not 1,000. Let's just go simple. The last 3. Probably in the last, let's go back to the 1700, right? The 3 centuries ago, 1800. So 18th century, it starts on 1701. Let's go back to 1701, and whatever happens there, we move forward to this day. And we're going to forgive and clean that. Once we're there, empty, nice, and then we're going to start working on the forgiving of everybody else. Everybody else. Even if nothing comes to mind, we just be there. And third, we're going to work on the resignation for any kind of pain, suffering that we are experiencing, or if we're not, that somebody is experiencing, and we can be helpful. We can help them. If I am patient and I can have resignation to my own situation, I don't need to have many words to say to that person who is going through perhaps an even worse situation than I am. Just be there. Just be there. Let's just be there and hold them and cry with them, and whatever is going on, just be there. But be present. Don't just show up and then disappear. Be present in a way it's like, I'm here, I'll be here anytime. If you can help me with the lights, I'm going to let's see here. We have, okay, let's see how this works again here. Okay. These lights have some nature walks.